Hi, everybody. This is Maxine Taylor, and I have the forecast for the United States for January 2022. When I'm finished with January, I'm going to go over some of the major aspects for the country this year. It's an overview, so it's a general look at what I consider to be the most important transits. And as I go through the year, I'll go into greater detail on them. Okay? All right. So let's first of all start with the sun. Now, the sun is the giver of life. And as it moves through the United States chart, it makes aspect to other planets. I am very, very fond of the conjunction. In fact, my mantra is conjunctions tell the tale, because they are the strongest aspect we have. It sits right on a planet. A transiting planet sits right on a natal planet. That's pretty strong. And while a trine is lovely and a square is a challenge, this, as I said, the conjunctions tell the tale. So we start off the month with the sun, that's the yellow planet, in the 8th house of the United States chart. Those of you who study astrology know that there is a different interpretation for mundane charts than natal charts. The 8th house in a country's chart or a business chart rules the treasurer, debts, escrow, taxes, losses, deaths, and secrets. And so there have been lots of secrets that have been coming to light. In view of everything that has gone on, we are fast. Today is January 3rd. I'm glad I got this in well. It's the beginning of January. And on the 6th, the anniversary of the insurrection that began on the 6th a year ago. And I say began because a lot of people are still fighting it, at least emotionally and mentally. So this is a very important time, of course. All right, the sun is in the 8th house until the 11th, when it moves into the 9th house. Okay, the 9th house deals with higher education, spirituality, religion. It deals with the upper courts, the Supreme Court, for example. It deals with foreign travel, advertising, science, and long distance travel would be the space travel that we have recently been doing. I mean, it's just so thrilling to me that 2 companies have been able to go to outer space. Just wonderful. It deals with insurance, with world trade, and universities. Now, the sun sits on Pluto. Pluto is a vitally important planet right now because in the United States chart, we are having a Pluto return. Since Pluto is the outermost planet that we use currently, it takes a while for the Pluto return to occur. It's been occurring. First of all, Pluto in a mundane chart deals with communicable diseases, global warfare, viruses, just your usual whatever that we've been going through. Okay, so the giver of life is the sun. So as it activates Pluto, this can be a total change in our relationship with our foreign neighbors. And since it's the sun, the giver of life, this can be very positive. However, a conjunction is a conjunction is a conjunction, and it's incredibly powerful. It sits on Pluto on the 17th. On the 27th, it sits on the South Node. Now, Pluto and the South Node are conjunct. The South Node traditionally, if you read an astrology book, says, oh, it's losses. It's terrible. I don't agree with that. The South Node is what we have mastered in past lives. And so it's easy for us to do that. Well, if you keep doing something that's easy, you get bored and you can get drained energetically. In a mundane chart, this deals with what we did before, what we established prior to now. And I'm speaking reincarnation. I would hope that most people are familiar with reincarnation. And so there can be some loss, because this is a mundane chart after all, involving our foreign neighbors. And that will be on the 27th. Now, of course, next month, the sun is going to be in our 10th house, our public image. But right now, I'm looking at Pluto, and because we're having a Pluto return, which is very unusual. Its orbit is 248 years, and here it is. It's amazing. So hold that thought. Now, we had a new moon, and that's when everything starts moving forward, all the energy. We had that on the 1st of the month in 12 Capricorn, back in that 8th house. And let me remind you, the 8th house is secrets, deaths. With COVID, there's been a great deal of death, taxes, losses, debts, escrow, and in an organization, it would be the treasurer. Okay, so that 8th house is still activated. The full moon will be on the 17th, and it's in 28 Cancer. Now, the full moon sits on Mercury. Mercury is in the United States' 3rd house, and it naturally is important because it rules the ascendant. I use the Gemini rising chart. It works for me. And so that full moon will be sitting on Mercury. Lots of communication, lots of talking, lots of debating. The 3rd house, which is where this will all take place, deals with communication, of course, the news, news reporters, news services, the public opinion, traffic, short distance travel involving bridges and roads, etc. Books, newspapers, neighborhoods, schools, teachers, public transportation. So all of these things are coming up, and there's going to be a lot of communication locally. It can be over voting places. It doesn't matter. The chatter is really going to pick up because Mercury is retrograde right now and Venus is retrograde right now. So let's talk about Mercury. All right. Mercury goes retrograde on the 14th. It is in the shadow of the retrograde, which we have a shadow before it goes retrograde and a shadow after it comes out of retrograde, after it goes direct. It feels just like it's retro during the shadow. And so it's quite a lengthy time. Look what it's sitting on, Pluto and the South Node. And so we've got lots of communication back and forth, phone calls to foreign leaders, lots of communication from the higher courts. And we can expect total change on some level with one of the things or more of the things that come into play with the ninth house. Once again, the courts, foreign travel, our foreign neighbors, religion can come into play, advertising, science. Oh, I wanted to mention earlier with the sun that I'm looking at social media here because there's been all kind of stuff going on with social media and whose account is being closed now. This can continue. Back to Mercury. Wherever Mercury is what you think about and talk about. And so there's lots of chatter, lots of communication about the virus. Remember, Pluto rules all communicable diseases, and in the United States chart, Pluto is intercepted in the 6th house of health. Hello. Yeah, we're talking about COVID and its various forms that it takes. So lots of communication, long distance, relating to this and relating to, hopefully not, but war, because Pluto is all or nothing. So it's global in scope. It's not a little skirmish. It's a big deal. You hear what I'm saying? Okay. All right, that's the first set of cards I want to share. Now, here we go. Venus, love and beauty and money. It is retrograde, and it feels just like a Mercury retrograde when it goes retrograde. It will go direct on the 29th, but it will move into the shadow till March 1st. So we've got a long block of time in which Venus, which is the lesser benefic, it's a beautiful planet. It is, however, retrograde, which means we may be tying up the loose ends of unfinished international affairs. And it, of course, is still retro. On the 4th, it moves back into the 8th house. So we are talking about taxes and deaths and all, the treasury. But Venus, even retrograde, gives us, well, when it's retrograde, it gives us the opportunity to tie up the loose ends of unfinished projects. And Venus is love. So I'm going to still look at it favorably. Now, Mars and Jupiter. Mars, planet of war, planet of passion. Wherever Mars is what you fight with and fight for, and it is number one to you. Well, in a mundane chart, which of course is different from a person's chart, Mars is in the 7th house of the lower courts, marriage and divorce, international affairs, believe it or not. Yes, war. Yes, lawsuits. Our open enemies, as distinguished from the 12th house, which rules our hidden enemies, okay? The 7th house deals with the public, law and attorneys in general, marriage and divorce, and all the lower courts, everything relating to legalities. And so there's going to be arguing over what the law says. And with all the committees going on now, particularly the one dealing with January 6th last year. I'm so glad this is taking place. There can be a great deal of arguing. On the 25th, Mars moves into the 8th house. Now, it rules the natural 8th house through its co-rulership of Scorpio. In the 8th house, let me back it up. It's what we fight with and fight for. With Mars in the 7th house, we use the courts to fight. In the 8th house, it's underhanded. We're dealing again with money, with taxes, with losses, hidden investigations. I'm thinking of election results, fraudulent election results, which have been proven not to be fraudulent, that type of thing. There's going to be arguing going on pretty much. And we're dealing with taxes, deaths, and a great deal of the arguments on both sides of the aisle are going to be hidden because of the content. I would not expect to be privy to everything that went on during the hearings. Also, the 8th house deals with sex, and I haven't seen it listed here in all of the explanations, all of the definitions in a mundane chart. But we know that we have had several sex scandals during the past several years. Let's just say the past 5 years. And they're being aired now. And the guilty are being punished. Very, very interesting. Deals being made openly and privately over sex, money changing hands privately, because the 8th house is other people's money. It is what it is. So we're going to be hearing more about trafficking, sex trafficking with minors, that type of thing. All right. And lastly, Jupiter, the great benefic, is still, while it's in Pisces, its own sign, which is quite lovely. The 10th house deals with the president, the country's reputation, the party in power, and our leaders in general, specifically the president, of course, and our public image. With Jupiter up there, Jupiter is blessing our public image and our president. Jupiter expands whatever it touches. And so our public image, of a positive public image I'm talking about, expands. I love that. I think it's great. Now there's one final card I want to share with you. This is not about January. It's about some of the major aspects that are going to be going on this year in the United States chart. I've talked about Pluto sitting on Pluto. From the standpoint of the pandemic, Pluto will finish its strongest, transiting Pluto will complete its finished, it will finish its most powerful conjunction with natal Pluto in 2023. So we've got, 2 more years. It will make a slight conjunction. It'll be 2 degrees separating in 2024. Okay. I'm hoping that some other situation, non-viral, non-communicable, it is involved with Pluto on Pluto, because that can be a total transformation in our relationship with foreign countries, foreign leaders, international affairs, long distance travel, space, religion, new laws about advertising. And I think this is where Facebook and Twitter and all of those would come in. World trade. But Pluto is all or nothing. And that's the thing that we want to be aware of. The sun moves on, it's done. Pluto, all or nothing. Now, something else that I see here is that Saturn, the planet of reality, sits on the moon in our 10th house of the party in power. I didn't care at first for Saturn on the moon because in a person's chart, that can hold the emotions down. It can be depressing, even restrictive. However, the positive side of that is awesome. This Saturn is the planet, in my opinion, the planet of responsibility. And by that, I mean respond to your ability as a leader. I feel that that is describing our president. And the moon represents the president in that case. Rules our second and third houses. Second house of money, earnings, finances, stock exchange, banks, debts, personal debts. And so I think President Biden is going to step up to the plate and take charge in a way that is very realistic. He's going to do something he may personally prefer not to have to do, but he will do it. And this will make a difference in our public image. When Saturn is in your 10th house, particularly when it's on the midheaven, and it's going to be on the midheaven very shortly. I'm going to get to that in the next month or so. When you have Saturn on your midheaven, you're at the top of your game. And so Saturn is moving up to the midheaven. And that represents the public image of the United States. So we've got Saturn, strong, Jupiter, benefic, really lovely. Now, Neptune, the planet of illusion and delusion. It's a sleight of hand, but I have found not so much in a mundane chart, but in a personal chart, Neptune can be the dream come true. Now, it's in the 11th house, and it is opposing the United States Neptune. So let's talk about the 11th and the 5th. The 11th house is Congress, and this can be confusion, all right? Smokescreen, escape, that type of thing. Congress and congressmen and legislation, the Treasury. The 8th house is the treasurer, the 11th is the treasury. City councils, county councils, our friends. And when I say friends, friends of the United States. And stepchildren, very interesting. That might be talking about adoption. What Neptune does is it dissolves things. It gets rid of what isn't working very gently and leaves room for what can work. It's really cool. But in opposition, it kind of pulls away from our natal Neptune. It's in the 5th house of children, sports, fun, all escapes. And, you know, we've been able to have sporting events, thank goodness. And now things are closing down again. Gambling, theaters, the birth rate. I can't read my own handwriting. Okay. Congressional and public hearings. And that's what we've got. Well, actually, they're private hearings, but they are congressional. We'll find out how much of the information goes public. It does also rule mainly children. So, and the final aspect is short-lived, but it's going to be quite a doozy. It's Mars sitting on the United States ascendant and Uranus. Now, Mars is passion. Mars is war. Mars is impatience. Mars, it will fight for what it wants, and it wants it now. Mars sat on our ascendant a year or so ago. I have lost track of time with this COVID monster. One day just moves into another. And I had predicted, without using the words, that there were going to be riots. I didn't say riots because I did not want to encourage it or endorse it or make anybody feel that they had permission to riot because I said it. But I talked about the public rising up and getting very upset and rebelling. Uranus is rebellion. Okay, during the course of this year, Mars is going to go retrograde, and it's going to go back and forth over our ascendant and our Uranus. Oh, swell. Let me just look here for 1 second. Uranus rules our midheaven, the president. And so there can be a lot of unsettledness. Is that politically correct enough? Of a very volatile type. And after last January 6th, you know, I just thought, I prayed, you know, let this never happen again. And when I first predicted that, we had an eclipse on our ascendant. You have an eclipse on your personal ascendant or your sun or your moon, and it is a new life eclipse. And so that fired things up, and then Mars came along and it was gunfire. That eclipse that I described is still operative because a new life eclipse is operative for about 1 year to 2 years. And so we want to be aware that there is a volatile aspect that is rebellious. It wants to fight. It doesn't mean the world is going to do it. It doesn't mean everyone in the country is going to do it, because we've learned by the horror of the deaths of innocent people. Police gave their lives for this. We know that it was orchestrated, or maybe we don't. Maybe we don't. But it was volatile, and there it was. Well, it's not quite over yet. Now, every couple of years, Mars is going to sit on the United States ascendant. That doesn't mean there's going to be a war, a civil war. It doesn't mean there's going to be fighting. It's just that with everything else going on, primarily Pluto on Pluto, our underbelly, the negativity that was there in our government, particularly with the last president who exposed it through his actions. That was Pluto helping us transform our policies, the way we treat our neighbors. I feel that there's always a gift in a tragedy. And I am hoping that once again, the stars shine brightly on all of us. And I wish for you that the stars shine brightly on you, on your country, wherever you live. And God bless America. And God bless all of you and your country. Bye for now.